Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story, entitled "Aunt Sold Grandma's House." But little did she know this was a big mistake. Everything started several years ago, around 2013 or 14 in Mexico. My entitled aunt has a history of harassing my grandma, her own mom, with money loans, stealing her food, and even making grandma pay for Karen utilities bill. My aunt harasses my grandma, saying it was her responsibility to make her daughter happy, or that if she was in need, wouldn't her mother help her, to the point of pressuring my grandma into asking the bank for a loan. No one knew anything. My 65-year-old grandma had to start to work selling anything she could. In Mexico, there are some products by catalog called Avon, Stanhome, and Ria, shoes that you can offer and sell, and grandma started selling them. I mentioned this for you to understand what she started selling, to the point that she got sick due to stress. Her excuse to my mom is that she did it to make her feel young. Grandma being a farmer all her life, we could understand she could not be sitting all day doing nothing, since mom pays for her rent, food, and utilities bill. My mom lets her be, but always warned her to not overpressure herself. The time passed and it was now 2016, and she started accumulating late fees for not paying the loan on time. One day, my mom receives a call from my grandma's neighbor because grandma passed out due to stress. She rushes to her house to find her house empty. We thought that someone had stolen everything, but no. The loan fees were too high and the payment was overdue for over 1 year. And the bank had taken everything from her house to pay the loan. Here's when we knew that the entitled aunt harassed my grandma into taking this loan. My mom was furious. She and my stepdad paid the loan and recovered grandma's stuff. It was around $7,000 in debt with the bank that my mom and stepdad ended up paying for. From there, my mom hired a nurse and had my 2 younger sisters go to grandma after school every day to take care of her. Mom worked in a different state. She only came on the weekends, and this is why she asked my 2 sisters to take care of my grandma. Also, they did not move due to stepdad's job and grandma. Both were in high school at the time and always had someone at home to avoid Karen coming to her house to steal goods or to harass grandma again. 2016 passed and I finished university in 2015 and started working. I was able to get hired by a USA company and started working and saving some money. In 2018, mom and I decided to purchase a house for grandma. We did all the paperwork and purchased a house for her. By the way, if you wonder why grandma was paying rent and had no house, that's because of our alcoholic grandpa lost her farm gambling. We knew that the entitled aunt would try to trick grandma into giving it to Karen. This is why the house was in my name. Everything was great for the next years. Then 2020 came, the worst year overall. And we feared the worst, COVID. And the inevitable happened. My grandma passed away. We are glad to say that she had a peaceful death. She died in her sleep, happy and well taken care of by my mom, sisters, and her nurse. We knew that Karen would try to make her move. So I asked my sisters to take her personal belongings from the house to trick the entitled aunt. And they agreed. They took any furniture out, clothes, anything from the house, even a small nail on the front door to hang some plants. They left the house completely empty. 3 to 4 weeks after this, my sister saw a big sign that said, "For sale," with Karen's phone number on it. I knew the time to start the revenge was close. I asked my family to let her know that I had something on mind. 2 months after the sign, the house was sold, and my sis saw people moving in. I felt bad for these people but had something in mind for them as well. 6 months passed after the new people moved into the house, and then it was time to act. You may wonder why it took 6 months to act. Well, my entitled aunt has a history of wasting money. I waited for her to waste most of the money from the house that she illegally sold. Revenge time. This is for you, Grandma. Event 1. Before COVID, my wife and I had planned to go visit my mom for her to meet her granddaughter. So we continued with the plan. We took our precautions traveling and we went to Mexico to visit my mom. Event 2. My stepdad was into politics his whole life. I asked him as a favor to search for the most professional lawyer he knew for this, and we got the best. I presented my case to him and gave him the original house scriptures, and he said it was going to be an easy win. Event 3. Like I did not know anything, I went to Grandma's house with my key copies and opened the house. This was part of the plan, even though there were already people living there. I was surprised when I saw people inside the house and asked him why they were in my house. The gentleman of the house stated he had purchased the house. I showed the house scriptures and he was shocked. He then mentioned that the paperwork was being completed and gave the phone number of the agent. I apologized for coming in the house and went to the real estate office. Event 4. Arriving at the real estate office, I asked for the agent in charge of Grandma's house being sold. When he looked at me, it was like he saw his last hope. My assumption was that he thought I was going to agree to the house being sold. And our conversation was something like this. Hi, are you Mr. Agent selling the house in such and such address? Yes, nice to meet you. We were trying to get a hold of you. What for? We had a small issue with the paperwork. We only need your signature and the house will be sold. This might be a mistake. I'm here to talk about the house being sold, because I did not agree to selling anything. Saying this, it was like a cool bucket of water was poured on him. The glow on his eyes were gone, and he knew he messed up bad. Really bad. He says, "Why is this change of mind? We've been talking via phone and you agreed to everything. You even mentioned to come as soon as you arrive in town. I'm sorry to break it to you, man, but you have been scammed. I have never talked to you before." Then I suggested calling me from the phone number we had been talking to. He did, and someone answered. Surprise, surprise, it was not me. Then I just mentioned that I wanted my house back, since I have never agreed to anything or I will legally proceed to sue them. And I walked away. From this point, I knew everything was going to go down for Karen. 3 days passed and I encountered Karen at Walmart parking lot. I politely approached her to say hi like I did not know anything. But when I was about to tell her goodbye, I then asked her why she sold my house. And she started to get nervous and negate everything. Until I mentioned that we have Mr. Lawyer suing her. A way to say we have a professional lawyer on our side. She then tried to defend herself that Grandma gave her the house and she had a paper with Grandma's signature. I just smiled and mentioned that Grandma did not have the power of doing that. Since the house was in my name, she better get her head straight because a storm was on its way to her. 1 week passed and we did not hear anything from the agent, so I paid him a visit again. It was hard to track him down. I tried for 2 weeks to contact him with no luck, so we proceeded to sue them. As soon as the suit was placed, I received a call from the agent. He wanted me to meet him. I refused and hung up. I did this to make everything harder for him for avoiding me for 2 weeks. He then found out who my stepdad was and found my stepdad's office address. He had the audacity to visit my stepdad. My stepdad, being a busy man, he ignored him and said to contact me and that he should have listened the first time. After 3 days of constant calls, my wife, being sick of that, made me answer, and I agreed to meet. In the meeting, he gave me his version of the story and why the house was sold. He mentioned that Karen contacted them for a house to be sold. Karen stated it was her mom's house and that she inherited it. She then presented a paper with my grandma's signature, with a fake last will stating that the house belonged to my grandma and Karen was the new owner after grandma passed away. This was nonsense, of course. Then when the agent started the paperwork, he found out the house was in my name. He contacted Karen and she assured him that I agreed and gave him a fake phone number, and this could be Karen's boyfriend or someone on her side. Not sure as of today who it was. The agent was in contact with this fake me for a long time, waiting for the paperwork, and that he mentioned that I was going to visit him to sign the paperwork. This is why he was so happy when I arrived the first time. The agent begged to stop any legal action. I told him I would agree only if he agreed to the following terms. A. Recover my house. Make the people inside my house move out. And B. Get a new house for the people currently in my house with the money they have already spent. He agreed to term A, but for term B he was not so sure. I then stated that it was his fault for approving the paperwork without my signature, and that he will need to recover the money from the agent to pay for the new home for the people currently in my house. They will need to solve this. I gave him 2 weeks to solve this, or else I would sue them all. Event 5. Notify Karen about the fraud she had committed and that she better had the money to return it. She did not take it very well. As always, she acted like she was on the right, saying grandma gave me this and no one can take it from me, and all that nonsense. Okay, we will see, Karen. We will see. Event 6. I went to talk to the people in my house to give them a heads up of the issue and apologize for the misunderstanding since it was never their fault. I'd explained that they will be moved soon to a new house, not to worry. The RSA will take care of everything. We got a call from the agent at the end of week 2. After we talked, he mentioned that my house was empty and that the people in there was in a new home as well. I called the gentleman that bought my house and he confirmed that they were in a new house and everything was good with the RSA. And also, yes, my house was empty. And now it's time to pay, witch. Since the agent and I were on good terms, we started working together to sue Karen for fraud and identity theft. We went hard on her. We sent the letter to court, notice and a date, and she did not arrive. We sent a second letter and this time she did arrive. While in court she never talked, at least not as an adult would. She was crying all the time and sobbing that we tricked her, that the house was hers, but all this was hard to understand was her desperate crying. We presented our evidence. We even brought the bank records when she harassed my grandma into getting a bank loan. We brought witnesses. We had the whole circus set and ready for a big show. Our lawyer was smooth talking and presenting everything, stating the house was in my name, and that Karen has a history of tricking grandma. In the end, we won the case. Karen had no evidence other than the fake last will from grandma, which was written by Karen and only had grandma's signature. Not only that, no lawyer was informed of this to back her up. The sentence. Karen was to give back all the money she got from the house, around $20,000. It was half of the house price since the paperwork was not completed. And she had 2 weeks for this, then a 9 years in prison for fraud and identity theft. And oh my god, guys, I was so happy about this. When the judge gave the sentence, Karen was just speechless. She couldn't even say a word. She even stopped crying. Her world and life had just collapsed in front of her eyes. From that time on, I have not spoken with my Karen or anyone about this, besides mom, sisters, and stepdad. This was on November 2020. I did not know if Karen was able to pay everything back, but I did know that when the cops went to her house to arrest her, she tried to escape and was on the run for 2 days until she was caught riding a bus to Veracruz. She was practically trying to escape, or at least attempting to escape. Edit. Here is a quick update on how the other members of the family took this event. Grandma had 5 children. Uncle 1, Aunt 1, Uncle 2, Karen, and Mom. When Grandma passed out the first time due to the bank loan, Uncle 1 and 2 confronted Karen. Big fight. From there and on, they cut any communication with Karen and, of course, they agreed with her fate. Aunt 1, although she was really disappointed, she continued talking to Karen, like a good sister, but did not interfere with her revenge in any way. Nor did she agree. We can say that she was neutral. As for Mom, Uncle 1 and 2, they agreed to the plan. Next story. Ma'am, I'm a foreigner. I can't work here. So this happened while I, 17 German, was in France with a couple of students from my French class. We were browsing an Intermarché French supermarket chain at that moment. I was browsing an aisle with a classmate when a middle-aged couple asked me to exchange dollars into euros. Mind you, the Intermarché staff wears vests with the shop's name embroidered on it. But I obviously did not wear that vest. The woman says in English, "Excuse me, can you exchange this?" waving a dollar bill in my face. "Sorry, I can't help you there. You'll have to find a bank in the town." Then the man says, "You speak English. You have to know. Just do it, damn it." My classmate tells him, "We're tourists, just like you. Please leave us alone." Then an employee came over to help us. He says in French, "What's going on?" I tell him that they think I'm staff and want me to exchange their money, but I'm obviously not able to do that. Then the employee says in heavily accented English, "They are not staff. You harass customers. You leave." Compris? They left us alone after that, and we waited until they were gone. We had a good laugh from that incident though. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.